Hi there, how are you going? This is Ellis Taylor, and this is part two of an informal interview conducted by filmmaker Chris Turner on some of my encounters with reptilians, other entities, and associated subjects. Hope you enjoy it.
That's a reptilian nest.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
What leads you to think that?
because
Despite obviously there's a lot of
because I'm aware of it from information I've had and in my otherworld journeys, then, and from visions that I've seen of things going on there and why they were built, etc. I'm not a believer in Atlantis and Mu, by the way, like a lot of other people, but I'm not. They not in the way that people look at them now. They're, from what I've been shown, they're actually memories, long memories of other journeys that mankind's had, and mankind has come from, maybe not originally, but definitely a very long time ago, the Pleiades. So, and they were chased here, by entities that wanted to do them in, because there was all this wars going on there. I've written about it in my book, but in These Signs Conquer. And they were chased here, went to Mars and eventually ended up on Earth, but they've come here as well and built the pyramids too. And they're definitely having a big negative impact on the energy grid, and the energy grid is something that affects every living being, etc., or form of consciousness in this world. So if you can influence that, then you influence everything that goes on in it and the behaviour of everybody too. So they've got a lot of systems and schemes in place to keep this world how they want it.
When you're referencing the reptilians, is there a name for the race?
Not. I've heard of names, but I've never been given one. I've never heard the name Anunnaki mentioned at all in my encounters. I've never heard the Draco mentioned. I've never heard any of that. But then, not all your communication is given in words either. A lot of it is feelings and visions and pictures and I don't know, languages that you can't really translate into words. And then we get to the language that we have, which is well, it's not very expressive, is it, the English language? I mean, some other languages around the world, they'll say in one word something that means like a vast scenario, and I find it they're much more pictorial, they're much more engaging with the imagination, some languages, than the English language. So it's the same with what you get when you're given information by other world beings. You get the pictures of it with it as well. You don't just get like words, which often can mean a variety of different things. So yeah, it's much more effective communication they give, really.
So you've never been given a name for the entities that are taking you, or that your experience?
I can't remember any, no. I don't remember any.
Is that unusual, or is that?
Well, it seems to be, because people have these names for all these different things, and if I talk to somebody about it, you've obviously got to use their terminology so they know what you're talking about. But I've never been given like.
I think I was listening to you on a radio show with Peter Slattery,
Mm-hmm.
and it was interesting you said that, because you said you were discussing negative entities, and automatically, like he said, oh, they are the reptilians, and then you said, well, I don't necessarily reference it as that. I call it the darkness invisible. So can you talk about why you do that, or why you reference it that way?
I call it the dark.
Sorry, and actually, is it the same thing? What I mean?
No, it's not the same thing.
Cool.
The darkness invisible is, I don't think it's my term. I think it's something that's been given to me and I use. So I don't take credit for anything I write about. I feel that it's all information I've been given. people look, they even call God the creator. And you hear about Jehovah and you hear about all the other versions of that name, etc., as being God. Well, what I've been shown is what's happening, is that you've got this all that is, all that is, ever was and ever will be, decided.
One sec. Okay, it's typical gone there. Sorry.
It's all right. Where shall I start?
Start at what you've been shown.
Right. Yeah, what I've been shown is that all that is, ever was and ever shall be, decided to experience. So what he did was create, because to have experiences you've got to have some sort of conflict in a way. You've got to have two arms of something. A positive and a negative, male, female, all that kind of stuff. So all that had to happen. So what he had to create was, or he, I'm saying he, it's he, she, it's neither, and I don't like the term it either. It makes me feel uncomfortable because that's disrespectful to me, but it's hard, isn't it? We don't have a language. So I will have to use those terms, unfortunately. So immediately what you have to have is the dark and the light side, so therefore you've got a creator and a destroyer, the creator and destruction. Now people look as the creator is God and the destroyer is Satan or the devil or whatever you want to call it. But really they're the same. They're the same thing, the opposite sides of the same coin or whatever you want to call it. But people look on that as God, and that's the devil. Whereas the creator, or the infinite creator, or whatever you want to call it, is not that one. So these I call the darkness invisible, because people don't see who they are really. And before anything can be created, something has to be destroyed. Right? You cannot have creation without destruction. And things are taken down and then built again, aren't they? That's how it works. So therefore they have to work together, that's the way it is. So yeah, those together are really the darkness invisible, because like the creator create a situation or create a plan to cause a situation, or create a plan to cause a destruction, that's all creation, isn't it? So they have to work together, and that's the darkness invisible.
So that's not something directly. People have done that, tied your sort of that theory into the reptilians. But by accident, not necessarily.
Sorry to interrupt. You're on 30 minutes left.
Shit. I'm actually debating whether they will actually come and sling us out. But
There's also 48 minutes of disc left.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, that is what controls all of these negative entities, for sure, because they want to create the situations that actually, because humans were created to be like this divine essence, to do beautiful things, to be the gardeners of this world, to look after it, make sure it is all running smoothly. That's what humans are here for. And they're not only here, they're in other places. But these entities are here to challenge and to make us not do that, because it's all part of the game. It's all a game. It's all part of God's dream, right? So they're doing this, and it's up to us to notice they're doing this, because if we don't notice they're doing this, and we fall for their threats and we fall for their inducements, then we're actually empowering that darkness. So you look through the old sacred texts everywhere, they're all telling you, like the Ten Commandments and all that, it's all warning you not to feed off their inducements and threats, that you're supposed to be doing this, looking after one another, caring for your neighbour, all this sort of stuff, it tells people, but people choose not to because it's much better to have loads of dosh off somebody or positions of power or credentials or whatever, isn't it? But that is just dragging this world down, and that's why the world's in the state it is, because people are ignoring this advice that they've been given by shamans. This is shamanic stuff that they were given a long time ago. And yeah, that's why we're at.
We talked earlier about like, sort of social structures from top down, as ever. And we touched briefly on it being controlled by, or being influenced rather, by negative energy or entities.
Yeah.
Have you been able to identify any, if that, or do you agree with any of the sort of identification of any sort of the reptilians, if you like, or the Pleiadians, or it's the Nordics, or do you not go along with any of those just purely because you can't confirm it? Is that obviously that's the way you work in your own research?
As negative, you mean, or as as entities?
As a negative control and sort of influencing.
Yeah, I don't, like we were saying, I don't sort of denigrate any whole species or whole race or whatever for anything. I'm sure that, you know, if you talk to cows or sheep, they wouldn't have a very good opinion of humans, would they? And you know, but it doesn't make us evil, does it? It's just that's the way energy flows, and plants. I mean, lettuces have feelings, and cabbages and things like that. They've all got feelings, you know. Yeah, we just sort of feel that it's okay to eat them, but not to eat animals. And why? They got as much feeling as anything else. So, you know, it's just the way that life is. Life only, you can only have life if energy is used. You know, energy is life.
So to a degree, and I've touched on this before in a film I made about the Illuminati and sort of their role, you know, that a lot of people believe that their position or their role is vital to the whole progression, if you like, because if you've nothing, sort of like, if you've nothing to fight against, whether you're doing it consciously or not, then you can't sort of evolve. Is that? Would you agree with that? So almost sort of like, what would happen without them, if you like, because with what you just
yeah, well, that's why the darkness invisible was. That's why all it is at that, because nothing would happen without that. You've got to have this thing going on, this backwards and forwards thing, but it's about bringing the balance. That's all that's needed, is to bring back the balance in this domain, certainly.
So what's happened with the balance? Has it been taken?
People have fallen for all the trinkets that the darkness has sort of put before them, and I think it's okay to have all this and somebody else. You know, to ignore all those people that are starving, and got nothing, and all that. You know, we've got this. You know. That's where the world's wrong, and it's just totally out of balance with everything, and it's like more, isn't it? It's like digging up the world and shipping it, like Australia ships itself all over the world, and so do other countries. But it's the same. All these elements in the earth, because the earth is a living being. All these elements in the earth are there in a particular place for a reason. It's like a, what do you call it, those electric things with all the circuits and stuff. That's what it's like. Those bits are integral to the healthy system, and if you take them away and put them somewhere else, you're stuffing up the system. So all these things are going on and causing this nightmare that's unfolding now. So
get on to the specifically reptilian questions. You may or may not be able to add anything to some of these. That's fine. And what did you say we've got?
25. There's 42 minutes on the card and 25 minutes till 1 o'clock.
Cool. Right, okay, we should be okay. The first question is really about, why is the reptilian theory so taboo? Why, in your opinion, why won't many researchers talk about it, even researchers in the alternative field?
Can I just say it's not just reptilians they won't talk about, it's about negative entities
Okay,
altogether.
that's fine,
Yeah. Because the whole world is run on people that are possessed and influenced, infected by them. And the whole basis of everything in this world is a fallacy. The implications of this are massive because we're so used to believing that this is what happened, that's who did it, that's why, that's the result. Now what if you put into the mix entities that infect people's minds and cause them to do things? Those things have to be sidelined, otherwise our legal system, our status quo in everything will not work. It has no authority because you can't say that someone did that when they may not have done that. This entity that had them caused them to do that. That system could have been set up particularly for that to happen. The people who became victims or whatever of certain crimes were guided to be there at that certain place and become the victim. There's all this whole scenario that people don't realise that is going on. It's just huge. It's hard to say, but the other thing is as well. I think there's a lot of ego involved in this subject, as there are in a lot of others, and that type of ego is infected ego, as far as I'm concerned. It's and the last thing these entities want is to be noticed. They want to be ignored, because if they're ignored, they can get away with it, you see. So you want to infect people and let them think that there's no such thing, and actually try and spread that there's no such thing, so that these things can operate in the darkness, you see. And yeah, all these things like jealousy and envy and all the rest of it, they're all caused by these negative entities as well. And so if you've got someone who's saying that this happened, these entities that are operating in the fields of people who deny this stuff are not going to be happy about it. So they're going to cause them to sort of say something and try and denigrate it or stop it from being made public or whatever. And the people that are actually trying to expose it will be demonised. What's the term? Funnily enough, I can't think of it in my mind. Yeah,
No,
but they will be.
That's cool. We covered that. So, like I say, you covered a lot of these. I think you mentioned briefly, I might be wrong about this, but you mentioned John Rhodes' work. Is that you?
No, I've heard of him. I don't think I can't remember. I may have read something of his. Nothing comes to mind at the moment.
Yeah, it's pretty much part of it anyway. Is sort of like based on an evolutional sort of a dinosaur, the evolving into the being.
Yeah, science has shown that can happen, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if the reptiles evolved, that's what they'd be. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I go with that one.
So you go along with the fact that
That's a definite possibility. But what I was shown is that the reptilians are actually the dimension they're in. They weren't made extinct. When they went extinct, it wasn't that they were no more. This Earth became another dimension, and they stayed in the same one. So they're still around, but they regard this as their home, their world. They own it, and the sun for them, they see as Saturn. Like Saturn would be their sun, because that's like the opposite end of the spectrum. It has been for donkeys. Whether it's in reality their sun in that dimension, which it could be, because science reckons it could have been a sun if it wanted to be, or maybe it was and isn't anymore. So that's why we've got all this Saturn worship going on, and I've written about that in the Science Conquer too, back in 2005, I think that was. But yeah, that's what I see as a development. Yes, that is possibility, what you just mentioned about Rhodes' work, But that's what I've been shown, is that they are in this other dimension, still fully going, still evolving, probably still different sort of levels of their evolving. But they look through to this world as being their own, and some of them as well, I suspect, I'm not sure, are still here and probably underground, I would say. Because I've been taken underground as well. What happened when I went down there, I don't know, but I just can remember going through this tunnel of rock on these rail tracks, and it was like a big circular tunnel, but it was all rock, and I feel we were going down and really fast. And I suspect that that's a reptilian thing down there as well. Not that that occasion was anything to do with reptilians, because I think there's other things down there too. But yeah, it's all pretty varied. You have to look at this in so many levels, and it's so multi-dimensional, and the possibilities and the connections and all the rest of it. You know, it's just huge. So you can't just think on one level and just linear.
Absolutely, I totally agree. In terms of like cultural references to these entities, we talked about it, about mainstream media, TV shows, films, movies, music. Can you talk about ones that stand out to you about the existence of these possible? We'll call them. Are you comfortable if we call them reptilians?
Yeah.
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 So can you talk about any sort of TV shows or movies or anything mainstream really that's out there that's sort of in the public domain, in open view, but you've just got to be tuned in to see it, if you like.
The funny thing is, though, in lots of ordinary shows, you'll see people shapeshift, and adverts as well. There's one that I showed. It wasn't actually me who noticed it either, because I'm not really a telly watcher much. But I saw it on YouTube. Somebody else had seen it in a Barclays card advert, and it got taken down. But I'd seen it, so I went onto the Barclays card advert and watched it. It's still on there, you know. It's one that was done in Rio. And you see this guy shapeshift in it. Blatant. I mean, you know yourself as a videographer and all the rest of it, filmmaker, that people are very particular, especially in adverts. It's all, and I've had experience of it. It's exactly what's in there is exactly what's meant to be in there. You don't get faults, you don't get blurrings. It's precise, very precise. Well, this guy shapeshifts, right? Now that's meant to be in there, and the whole thing is about shifting, because it's all about a card sliding and all this kind of stuff, and sliding from one thing to another. There's a big slide going through the city of Rio de Janeiro, and then this like shapeshifts and back again. And you know that that's not a mistake. There's some message being given there, and there was a program on the TV called Sliders. I did watch a couple of episodes, and that was kind of about sliding through dimensions, wasn't it? So it was all like that theme, and there's definitely a message there about some dimensional shift, and of course that was on the lead up to 2012 and all the rest of it. So that's one occasion. But then, like I said, in ordinary occasions, I've seen in films people shapeshift. I don't remember all their names because I don't watch TV much, but occasionally you just see it. I remember sitting there with somebody once and watching a program, and this guy just sort of shapeshifted. All of a sudden, and I looked at the guy I was with, and he was going, I said, "You see that?" Yeah, what? So you get that a lot, and then of course you got the sci-fi programs as well, like V, which I did watch. I watched V. That was back in the 70s, I think, and I really like that. But I'm never been a science fiction buff really. I've watched the occasional thing, but my own world's been like probably the same. It's not so strange to me, but yeah, I enjoyed that, and I watched They Live about 4 or 5 years ago, I think, on the internet, on YouTube, and I watched it on there. Now that is so real. What I found in life is that very often the things that are kind of I find distressing or are distressing for me at the time, I don't watch. I don't know why, but I don't watch. People say, "Oh, you should watch this," and I don't. And then it comes to a point where I feel that, yeah, okay, I'll watch that or I'll read that, and I will. And then I know why it was I didn't watch it before. I wasn't ready to sort of integrate that into where I was at the time. But thee and they live are so accurate, so accurate. Yeah.
So would you say, in your opinion, do you think that a lot of these directors, writers, high up in Hollywood, certainly might not know the whole story, but certainly have an idea of what's going on?
A lot of them, yeah. I'm sure they must do. And I don't think you get to any sort of position without having some kind of awareness and somebody behind you pushing you into that position to be able to do it, and the finance and all the reach that they have, etc. Spielberg for sure. But mind you, Spielberg, that's an interesting one. I put some photographs of my marks and things on my website. Put them up on my website in about 2000, I think it was. I didn't have them up there long because I changed things around, but he brought out this TV series called Taken, which was really good. I don't know whether you've seen that. But in that, he showed, like, they'd obviously made a mock-up of them, but it was exactly the same as my finger marks, which I've never seen anywhere. Well, not exactly, but almost exactly the same. And also this drawing that I'd done, it was a drawing almost exactly the same as well in it as well. But that's researchers, and I think that's fantastic. So, that they obviously went into this program in great detail to get as accurate as they could. And yeah, they used those. So Spielberg's, he's, a lot of people have suspicions about him, and maybe, and he's obviously got to be part of the system to be where he is, but he certainly has put out some stuff that is very authentic.
Well, I mean, it's just funny that the reptilians, if you like, always are portrayed as negative by whoever's doing it, which is interesting. On 90% of the time, I would say, you get various ones pop up in certain sci-fi shows like Star Trek and that sort of thing, but generally, that's probably more of a cultural thing that's been accepted and sort of, it's not questioned, if you like.
Yeah.
Go back to, actually, I think we elaborated on the fact about possession of these negative entities. Do you think it's possible that they are affecting and controlling individuals without their knowledge?
Yeah. There's certain things you can do that actually open up your aura, create holes and things like that enable these things to infiltrate. Things like psychoactive drugs, even some sorts of music. There's a few different things that actually they can harm your energetic body then and create openings for these entities to come in. Anger, war, fear, terror, all those sorts of things, yeah. And not only into a certain person, but into the world. So if you create sort of huge terror and fear in the world, then you allow more and more entities to access it, because we're not talking about a physical thing, they're able to access it because you've created these portals for them to come in. So
Over time,
11 minutes.
Covered that. Something that you mentioned earlier I wanted to go back to.
Yeah, it was the initial time that you had the markings.
Right, yeah. Why were we doing that again?
Just because the light.
The light. Okay. Yeah, what happened earlier when you were talking about the event where you received, the marks? I don't know if that was the beginning of the 47.
no, it was a few days in. Yeah.
Can you go over that again for us? Sorry, Alice, just because what happened is the light sort of drastically changed on you.
Okay, from where? Because I started when I had the shaved leg, didn't I?
Yeah.
You want me to start from there?
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Wow, it's a long one, isn't it? Okay, we'll go for it. You'll be able to edit it and
Sure,
stuff it,
yeah.
won't you? I'm just trying to think how to start off. Yeah, okay. It was about the end of March in 1996, and I went for a shower and noticed that I had a shave patch on my leg. And I thought, what's going on there? And it was over a scar. And anyway, I mentioned it to my partner, and she said, oh yeah, this sort of thing, but never thought of anything more about it. It just seemed odd. And then a few days later, I took my stepdaughter to the loo before we went to bed, and I noticed she had this big red circle on her leg. It was a solid circle. And I told my partner about it in the morning. I said, oh, she had a big red circle on her leg, and she said, well, you had one on your leg this morning. And I said, well, oh no, I just sort of took it for granted again, you know, just, okay. I didn't know where that had come from. And then on the morning of the, oh no, sorry. Then, for some reason, I had this feeling that I ought to report this UFO that I'd seen in Fairford. And I'd been with a friend and we'd seen it, and it was quite a significant sighting, what he was doing, etc. And I'd never reported it, so I looked up in the telephone book for a UFO organisation. And I found this group, but I never reported it, I never got around to reporting it. And then on the 13th of April in 1996, I got up about 7 o'clock in the morning, went to the loo, came back to bed. My partner went with the covers off me, what's all that all over your body? And I had all these marks on my body, and I couldn't quite make them out, but she was really freaking out. And there was a face there, drawing of a face. There was like something there that looked like a tail, or maybe a paw, or something that I couldn't quite make out. And there were finger marks here that were in a strange configuration. And they were all red marks, and none of them had any impression. They were just completely smooth. And yeah, and then I was burnt all the way around as well, all around the rest of my body, like bright red. My partner, as I said, was freaking out. She rushed to get her camera and came back and started taking photographs of them. And meanwhile, I looked in the mirror because I couldn't quite see what they were, and I could see what she was talking about because it's very distinct, these things. And she took photographs of them, and very shortly after that, they vanished.
Is there anything else now that you want to add that we haven't covered, if you like, on this sort of, in this subject?
Gosh. We've gone through quite a lot, haven't we?
Well,
I've got.
We always end up doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I have been told that I vanish in front of people. I'm just not there anymore. And once when I was speaking at Probe, a lady saw all these things going on around me. She got a bit frightened. She's a medium, but she's also a professional photographer. She got a bit frightened because the time before when I spoke there, a bloke had dropped dead on the stage. That's a long story in itself I could tell you about. But she saw him, or the spirit of him, while I was on stage. She could see all this stuff going on around me, and she took some photographs, and I can show you those photographs, but I was sort of partly not there again there. So I vanished in front of the audience and nobody noticed.
So what is that a perception thing, or?
Not with a camera, is it? When
Well,
you
not
got
with a camera, no.
yeah,
I mean,
when you
it's
take photographs of something and that's what's there.
again, I think does it boil down to sort of conditioning, and that you, of course we don't expect anyone to dematerialise, if you like. But so then when I'm going to see it, are we not going to see it if it happens? Or,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But have you not? Did you not feel anything at the time?
Yeah, oh yeah, I felt weird up there, and I felt weird walking down there too. And then another lady, another medium actually, she sent me a photograph of when I was there at the same time. I was sort of at the lectern getting ready to speak. They was setting me up and stuff. She took a photograph of me, but when it came out, like she's sort of way back in the audience, when it came out, there's this dark figure blackening me off right in front of her. It's like blocking her off. I've got a photograph of that too, she sent me. And then when I came back after my talk, I sat down and this guy came up to me. He said, when you were talking up there, this horrible face came out of the screen and was grinning at the audience.
That's strange that people are seeing that.
He was an ex-Falklands War hero as well, that guy is.
What could you talk as quick as we can about? I don't know how much you want to go into it, if at all. About when you first, I wouldn't say attempts on your life. I don't know whether that's accurate, but certainly anything like that you would put down to the things that you're looking into. Or not necessarily looking into the experiences that you're having even. Is there any that you can?
There's a lot of them. I'm just trying to think of a significant one. Like the earliest one is when I was a baby, and my mum. In those days, you left your babies in the pram outside the shop. You know, it don't happen these days, but you did that everywhere. Yeah. She left me in the pram outside the shop. Went in for 1 minute. She put it on. Brake on and everything like that, and it was a flat road anyway, but put the brake on. Came out of the shop, and the pram's going off on its own down a thing, and it was just gonna go across this road, and this man appeared from nowhere and grabbed the pram, stopped me going in front of a bus or whatever. That was an odd one.
When you say you appeared from nowhere, do you mean literally from nowhere?
Well, from around the corner, I suppose. I don't know. I'm just going by what my mum's told me. Other like car accidents that have very nearly happened. A guy threatened me with an what do you call it? Needle injector. What do you call it? Hypodermic needle. Yeah. That was quite a long story though, because.
I'm sure I read this about. Is it a silencer or potential? Like, you heard a silencer going off.
Yeah. I
So
can't remember what that one was
I
now.
don't know.
But yeah, that did happen.
You were outside in the garden, and I think you went and had a look.
I was sitting there writing something, because I was writing at the time. I think it was while I was writing about David Kelly. And I had this military helicopter come over the house, circling the house, and it was there for ages, and people were coming out of their houses and looking up at it, and it was making a hell of a racket. It was only just above the house. And I went out, and it went off, and I just managed to catch I went and grabbed the camera and just managed to catch it going off. And then I had a police helicopter doing the same thing a couple of days later. And then I was getting strange phone calls. But one of the nights, I heard something go bang, and I think it hit the glass on the wall. I can't remember what. But it was almost like a silencer had shot something from very close. I think that's the occasion you're talking about, is it? Might be another one, I don't know, I can't remember.
No, that's the one.
Yeah.
But it's good that you've sort of put it across in a. I mean, you could have easily sort of sensationalised that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're not sure. You've said you're not sure, which is, good.
Yeah.
Because
I did phone the police.
And did they come? And
No, I didn't. But the helicopter was above me, and the military helicopter and all the rest of it. But yeah, the hypodermic needle thing was quite a close one. That guy meant it as well. But I've written about that. I can give you
sure.
the article about that. Safe going into it. But yeah, and then car accidents. Just coming here, actually, going through Wales. Driving along it's quite windy roads, and it's raining, so I wasn't going too fast, and it was uphill as well. And this, all of a sudden, this car just was there, and he pulled out in front of me, so I put on my brakes, right. And the next minute, he goes into the next drive, right. I was thinking, bloody idiot. So I carried on. Then you got to this real curvy road, and just as I got to it, this car came screaming round in the middle of the road. If I'd have been there 1 second before, it'd have wiped me out. But because this bloke,
it slowed you up.
things like that, you see. And another time I was driving, this was in Australia, I was driving along the road, and I had my girlfriend with me, and I was following this ute, and it was a big ute, truck thing, and it had one of those huge mining tyres on it, like colossal things. And for some reason, I was keeping a healthy distance. For some reason, I put the brake on. This bloody tyre came off. It would have landed straight on top of me if I hadn't have. Things like that, it's just, they're warnings. They're not like actual attempts, but they're like letting you know. And there's been others as well. I just can't think of them.